In 1965, a racing legend was born, a Hemi-powered, wheel-standing beast of a truck known as the Little Red Wagon. Created from the Dodge A-100 truck, this monster of a race truck was owned and driven by Bill Maverick Golden, a man even more famous than the truck he drove. Bill Maverick famously won over 1,800 trophies, thousands of races, and set an astonishing number of records during his racing career. It wasn't until Frank Wiley, which was Chrysler's chief of public relations at that time, took Maverick to the shop of Dick Branster that they had a match made in heaven. Chrysler's A-100, which is a cab-over-engine style of truck, hadn't been selling as well as their D-100, which is a cab-behind-engine style. In the 60s, the best promotion a car could get was to win races or do something everyone would be talking about. So Chrysler decided to do both and had Branster's shop engineer a custom A-100 with a bigger engine in the bed of the truck. Chrysler also changed the engine of the custom truck to the enormous 426 Hemi and removed anything in the car that would add weight. That included the front bumper, the heater, the spare tire, the dash panel, and even the body sealer were all removed, which is just crazy. They even switched out the stock doors for fiberglass. What they ended up with was a back-heavy truck that as soon as the supercharged engine was given some gas, would have a tendency to wheel stand and tear down the track like a bat out of hell. Sounds pretty cool to me. Bill Golden was in love. He went from winning races to winning hearts and minds in what has become one of the most famous Dodge trucks ever built. So famous, in fact, that in 2009, Sotheby's auctioned off one of the last surviving Bill Golden Little Red Wagons for $550,000.
That vehicle is going to be the end of your father. So,
okay.
Yeah, you might want to take out a real...
yourself in it, or?
Well, it's going to be 1,000 horsepower built by Ray Barton. It's got a blower shop 871 blower on it. It's got dual Demon 850 carburetors that are designed to go on a blower. Custom built Zoomy headers.
But it's only on 2 wheels, you'll be fine.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to steer it, should be fine.
Should be fine. It's straight line, that's all you need.
The Little Dead Wagon is really going to be the Little Dead Wagon. This is a really solid, super solid truck, as in zero rust. Here at the front, you see some welding that we've done. This thing had hit something, and so all of this area that you see between these weld points was caved in. What we did was cut that piece out so we could put it on an actual, like a bench, and start metal finishing it from the inside out. And so what you see right here is where we were able to knock all the dents out of it and get the shape that we needed. Then all we have to do is weld it back on, grind our welds, do any mudding that we have to do. And the main reason for that is this is a 1964 model truck. Everything is real steel back then. It's not the stuff that we deal with today that's a really, really thin gauge, high strength, low alloy steels. So trying to get in here where it's a double panel is impossible to get in there and knock that dent out. It's much easier just to cut it out, lay it upside down, hammer it out, and weld it back on. That's what we did where you see this mark in the valance here. Everything that you see right through here, all the way around the corner, we had this lower valance piece off of there, and we were able to straighten it out really nicely on the actual bench, then put it back up in there and metal finish off all the welds. So that's why that looks so much better. Before, it was caved all the way in back to here. Now our nose, it was caved in too, but we have full access through here to it. I was able to put a porta-power in between this wheelhouse and that wheelhouse with a bar and push this area out while I was stress relieving it. That's why you end up seeing so many of the little dent marks. Now originally this had a 15-inch tire that was like a little cookie cutter, okay? You can see that we now have these Hoosiers in here. They have almost 20 inches across the face of them. They're 33 inches tall. This is very similar to what they were running on some of the wheel standers and dragsters, Top Fuel back in the day. You see that most of the bed is cut out of it. You see the engines out of it. If you look straight down here, you can see that all that's out of the way. Starting at the front cross member that you see the little spider web gussets, that area right there is what's going to hold the second generation 426 Hemi. I bought a Mopar Performance 426 Hemi for it. I sent it back to Ray Barton. Ray Barton's building the hell out of it. He's going to put a blower shop 871 blower on it. We've got some Holley carburetors going on it. So we think it's going to put out about 1,000 horsepower. So all of that heavy 2x4 and 2x3 and 2x2 box tubing that you see starting all the way back here going forward is the reinforcements that we need for this truck to be able to stand up to that much brute horsepower that's coming out of it. Even though it probably won't get much of a bite, meaning it won't hook up and really do a lot of damage, What little bit it could do, what kind of flexing it could do when it does get a bite, could twist the little truck up. So that's what all that reinforcement's for. We went out of our way to do the little cool spider web gussets everywhere that we could. Mosier connected with us and put a 8 3/4 style housing. They narrowed to my specifications. Over here you got the wheel tubs. I just got one of these in. We built a 1/4 by 1 inch by 1 inch square framing for this to set down in. It's just sitting there right now. We have to do some welding to get that all in place. We have to level it a little bit. But this is what both sides will look like as soon as we're done. So as soon as we have these in, we'll finish off all of our metal work, and then I can send this out, have it dipped, and when it comes back, we can start doing body and paint on it. As soon as we can get the body and paint work done, hopefully Barton's done with the Hemi, the rest of the guys are done with the other things. We're building a 727 torque flight for it. As soon as all that's done, we'll be able to marry it together, because our goal is to be able to get to SEMA 2018. This is our road to SEMA car that we're doing this year. So one of two, actually. We got another one we got going, but we can't talk about that yet. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes of where our 1964 Dodge A-100 Little Red Wagon is at. And stay tuned, we'll keep you guys caught up down the road. We've been waiting for the sun to come out so that we'd be in a position to do some soda blasting. Normally we dip these vehicles, but in this case, it's too tall for the dip tank, number one. And number two, it has a lot of boxed in channels. So if it goes in the dip tank and it comes back out, we may not be able to neutralize all of that stuff that would get in those channels. So soda blasting was the actual answer.
I'm Jack with Jack's Mobile Soda Blasting out of Hillsboro, Oregon. Mark reached out to me a couple weeks ago to blast this Dodge, and I suggested we use baking soda. The nice thing about soda, it's environmentally friendly, USDA, FDA approved. It's very safe. It's a great new product out, and I believe it's going to be the future.
I got the A-100, so now it's time to get it in the paint booth and get it primered. Primer work looks pretty good, couple little things to fix, nothing major, but at this point we're ready to block it out and get it ready for pre-paint with it. So I have about 3/4 of the A-100 painted, the cab, a bedside. I know a lot of times you'll just paint the whole thing, but it's such a time crunch this year, it's real time. We're that far behind, so if it's ready, I just paint it. So any parts and pieces that I can get together, since Doug doesn't have a lot going on, and I give them all to him so he can start the sandblasting process. Now that I got the hinges back, I can check that off the to-do list, and I can get them painted and move forward with the A-100. If there's something I can paint and get it curing, I'll do it. So, I painted the cab. While that was drying, I jumped onto a bedside. Whatever needs to go red, that's how we kind of had to do this. So the whole truck was kind of done in parts and pieces, just so that way we can get it put together and get it delivered on time. When I paint the doors and hinges, it's pretty much the same process as when I do the car. Only thing a little bit different is you have to take into consideration you're panel painting the whole car, so you just got to be very thorough. If you put 7 coats on that cab of that red, which is a very transparent color, which I did, you make sure that you put 7 coats on those doors. So the only thing that's critical is just having that number in your head and going through that whole process, so when it's actually all bolted together, everything matches correctly. I got the inside of the bed completely painted black, came out great just like we were hoping. Now that that's done, I can jump over and wrap up the paint work on the last bedside. Now that all the pre-paint work is done, it's time to get it all blocked out and sanded and ready for final paint. Now that the truck's all blocked out, it's time to roll it in the booth and get the final paint work done. Now that I got the color all laid out and it looks amazing, I can jump in there and get the clear coat all done. I'm gonna let that cure for a little bit. Once that's done, I'm gonna start the cut and buff process and then get it over here for assembly. And now it's Mark's problem from this point forward. I'm excited to get this rolled over here because I am the paint and body side, so our part is done over there. I'm still gonna help out over here, but the problem we're gonna run into is Mark said everything's been pre-fit, this thing's just gonna fall together. He did all the mock-up, so to speak, what he considers a mock-up. Problem is, I watched him do the mock-up. It's horrible. This thing's not gonna just fall together. So I just wanna be around for all those little problems that are gonna come up.
My name is Brenda Kellison. I'm a pinstriper. Mark gave me the opportunity to letter the Little Dead Wagon, his version of the Little Red Wagon, and so I couldn't pass it up.
Doug and I are working on getting the engine mounts in position. I've already pre-mocked all this stuff up, so now it's just a matter of putting it on the engine and getting it ready to go in the A-100. It's not just a matter of dropping it in there like it is on some cars, or just dropping the car down around it like we do on the other cars. God, I've got a bad feeling about this. So the doors are all assembled. We got the locks, the handles, we've got the latch assemblies in, the new weather strips. With all that done, that really allows us to button up a good majority of that cab. This particular case, this is a true unibody. The frame rails are built into it like a unibody would have, but everything in it. The framework for the instrument panel and for the radio, the things that will bolt into it that'll make it a street functionable unit, they're actually welded into the body itself. So I can't take those out and put them in a sandblaster and blast them all up and make them pretty. Will had to do all that stuff in place. To be able to move forward with getting the rest of the interior in the truck, we've got to be able to put the back window in. It's going to be up to our team to get it installed.
So with these back glasses, you don't have to urethane them in. They just really set into place and the molding holds it into place. So therefore we can just do it ourselves. Back glass is in, looks great. We had it tinted, so we can move on to the next step.
The windshield installation, way past my pay grade. That's very, very precise work. This is a dual windshield with a split. So if you look at it, you got a right-hand windshield, left-hand windshield, and then you got a nose piece down the middle. Putting all that together and not breaking one of those pieces of glass with less than 4 days to have the car ready to go to SEMA, not my idea of fun. So that's done. That looks absolutely gorgeous. That's a huge thing to have out of our way. Because with that out of our way, we really just have a few things left and we can load that thing on the truck and head off to the show. So firing up the Mopar Performance Ray Barton 923 horsepower Hemi, I thought I'd have a little fun. Will, if it's gonna leak, it's going to be out these back bowls right here.
Okay.
So you might see it better from this side. I don't know.
Well, I don't want to, oh, this is dry.
This is a dry round.
Yeah.
Okay, so just crank over, see what's happening. $923 horsepower in a vehicle that probably weighs 3,000 pounds and all the weight's over the back tires? Yeah, bring SEMA on. I am ready. I am ready for the red carpet and I'm ready to set the world on fire. And you just make sure you get my insurance paid up. Accidents. So we're getting ready to install the seats in the 1964 A-100 Little Red Wagon. I like looking at the camera, I guess kind of punches at home. Anyway, it's not the point, it's not all about me. These seats are customized. When it's all custom like this, I can anticipate some problems. My biggest fear will be that they set too high or they don't set right when they actually get bolted in. It is what it is, we gotta get to SEMA, so. One of the things I admire most about Doug is how he will take his time. When you take those seats, for example, that bolt doesn't thread in there by hand, he'll clean it up. He'll clean the bolt up, he'll run a thread chaser through it, run the tap in there, get those threads all cleaned up. He doesn't want to be in a situation, and most technicians are not this way. They'll just ram it in there with an impact gun. Doug takes his time, cleans it up, and makes sure that it's a sanitary install. Seats really went in without too much trouble at all. Again, this is a little bit different than what we're used to working on, so we did have to clean up some holes. We did have to find and locate the holes in the floor, that kind of a thing. But overall, it went really well. I'm glad that's done because now the seats are in it, we can set in it, we can set the height to figure out where the shifter's gonna be, so we can really start moving forward with the wrap-up. So on our Little Red Wagon, there are a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of choreography because there's only so much room for so many people. Now, the engine's in it, certainly that means the drivetrain's in it, but the wood has to be stained. We bought a really cool floor bed kit from Yogi's. We're staining it with a dark walnut and then we're using PPG clear over the top of that, so that's Will's job. The rest of the team are working on getting the stainless steel trimmed and fitted, cut, and put into place for like the wheel tubs and the insides of the bed. We're pretty lucky to have a really cool metal shop right down the road from us. The guys at All Pro, they just roll out the carpet for us. They have all the brakes and all the slip rolls and everything, that they're the ones really that are pre-cutting and pre-shaping a lot of the stainless steel that's going inside the bed. It's big pieces, so you know, inside that bed's 6 feet long and it has to have a certain shape and a certain contour to it. So when you're talking about clear coating over an impervious substrate like metal, it doesn't take nearly as much paint because the paint has nowhere to go, it can't soak in. But this is wood. So that stain, while it goes on there and it soaks into the wood, the clear is coat after coat. Typically speaking, you would want to put 3 or 4 coats of clear on, let it set for a week, sand it, then re-clear it, and continue to do that until you had a nice flush finish. So the Little Red Wagon has kind of been an ongoing change. And so from what I had envisioned originally to where it is even right now is different. The basic structure of it is the same. It's a great big Hemi in the back of an A-100 and it's painted red and it, you know, got a Little Red Wagon going onto it and all that stuff. But the stainless steel inside was more of an afterthought. Originally when I did it, I thought I would do body and paint work inside of there. But as we started running out of time for SEMA and that date kept creeping forward, I thought, you know, the stainless would look pretty good, and it will. But it also saves me on my end a lot of time. The body and the paint that we'd have to do inside there would be an enormous amount of time. Frankly, we just didn't have that time. So the kit from Yogi's for the bed floor, I believe is for a regular 8-foot bed. That doesn't leave us a lot of extra wood and a lot of extra stainless. It does leave us some, but what we've got to be careful of is making sure that when we make our cuts that we don't overcut. You can't put wood back on. You can keep taking it off, but you got to be careful when you make your measurement and you make your cut. Now, at the same time that you got this specific piece of wood that needs to be, say, 54 inches long, maybe it only needs to be 4 inches wide, and originally it's a 6-inch wide piece. So then we have to do a radial cut or a lineal cut down it. That's where guys like Royal come in because he's done a lot of woodwork, and so is our new greenhorn. But when you're done, you've got to be able to stack this tongue and groove in together with the stainless steel separators. They also have to be precision cut. You cut too far, you can't put it back on there. With no time left for SEMA, it's just a very crucial time, even though we're rushing, and normally you can make compromises in a rush. This stuff, you have to stop, take your time, not just double measure, triple, quadruple measure. You need to make sure it's right. It's so important that we don't make any mistakes because we can't next day out a whole nother kit that weighs 300 pounds, right? We have to take our time, but at the same time, one small mistake throws the whole game over. What are you gonna put on the floor? Some carpet? And throw some shag carpet in there, call it a 70s unit? So yeah, you do have to make the right cuts and you have to make them every single time. It takes a long time to build a car. And it's just a shame that all that prep and all that time and all those dedicated hours still come down, no matter how hard you try, to that last murderous week, hell week, where you're just doing back-to-back suicide shifts trying to knock one of these things out. Maybe one day we'll have a perfect system and won't have to do that. But right now, I don't know any way to avoid it. That's a bad boy, bad boy. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when it comes for you? What do you think?
It came out great.
This thing is absolutely beautiful. It came out just like I wanted it to. It has so much of the spirit of the original one that I grew up watching.
This thing's awesome. The car came out great. We got it ready for SEMA, and it's ready for the red carpet.
Absolutely gorgeous. Ray Barton builds the nastiest engine on the planet today. It has 923 horsepower on pump gas.
And it fired right out.
Yep, 871 blower shop blower, dual Holley carburetors, just beautiful.
Oh,
Yep.
Has a good feel to it.
Got our Yogi Bear floor in there. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, is there anything you'd do differently?
Not a thing.
And look at the lettering Brenda did on that. I mean, just a local talent to capture the spirit of what I wanted, which was, I wanted it to look like the lettering and look the cartoony kind of a feel to
Right.
it. It wasn't until she started putting the shadows on it
Right.
that it really started to pop.
No, this has that old school feel to it.
Hoosier, Excel, Eat My Shift transmission guys. Johnny Lightning. Johnny Lightning was the original sponsor of the Little Red Wagon.
Oh, was it?
Yep. We are going, and I didn't tell you this. This is the cool stuff. Notice my pistol grip shifter,
Yeah.
my crushed velvet tuck and roll interior. Oh, that was spawned from my brain.
No, it wasn't. The steering wheel was cool.
Mom used to say I had a fertile mind.
You probably did at one point.
No, I still
agree.
have a fertile mind. There's nothing wrong with my mind.
You
It
just
still
said
works.
you were delayed.
You know what I did is I did that for you because I feel sorry for you.
You just realized
you
you
come
just-
up with
you
lies,
just- no,
and then I
no.
just tried to get you a back door
No.
out of it.
So driving this thing is amazing, right? First off, you're driving a bomb. I feel like Wile E. Coyote driving around on a skateboard with a rocket strapped to it. I mean, it's just not gonna work out good one day. But just playing with it a little bit, hitting the throttle, remember it's got 923 horsepower and it's going right to the ground. I mean, there's no slop. Monster transmission, 727 torque flight that just shifts like that, like lightning, right? Ray Barton, 923 horsepower, Holley, dual Holley carburetors with a 871 blower shop supercharger on it. Diamond brand pistons, Milodon oiling system. I mean, you name it, this thing is built. This thing is ready to rock and roll. Out on the road, you know it's ready to rock and roll because every time you hit the gas, the front end comes up in the air and I get scared because I'm not used to doing wheelies down a track. If I had a motorcycle, it's different. This is a big rig. This is my town, right? I grew up here. All of the memories that I have in life are of this town and these roads. And I was thinking that, you know, I built this model when I was a little kid over on 14th Street. When I'm driving it, I just kind of flash back to that. So, you know, here I am, 56 years old, driving the same streets that I walked and drove as a kid, driving a real live version, my own version, of a model that I actually built. So, but at 56, I've made at least one trip back around. So I'd be anxious to see where I'm at when I'm 66. There's some other stuff I want to build. There's some really neat cars that I remember as a child building the models. The Boot Hill Express is one of them. Christine's another one. So with that sentimental crescendo, I'll just say, stay tuned. We got a lot of cars, a lot of really great stuff. Same familiar faces. Thank you for your support. We look forward to seeing you.